Hey everyone! So if you're an entrepreneur based in Germany and you've been dreaming about breaking into that massive American market, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break down step by step how you can set up a US limited liability company, an LLC, all from the comfort of your home office.
Here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about why the US market is such a huge opportunity. Then, we'll dive into picking the perfect state for your new company. After that, I'll walk you through the actual formation process, show you how to get a US bank account without ever leaving home, and finally, we'll get into the really important stuff, the costs, the taxes, and how to stay compliant.
This video contains affiliate links. Before we dive into the exact step-by-step process of taking your brand global, let's talk about the foundation. You absolutely cannot unlock the full power of the US market like accessing top-tier US business bank accounts, setting up Stripe, or gaining instant global credibility without a properly structured US business entity. Most international founders try to operate from their home country as a sole proprietor or get tricked into paying thousands of dollars to expensive overseas lawyers. And that's why they get locked out of the best financial tools. Your business needs to be a legitimate, recognized US legal entity, no matter where you live in the world. That's where Busy comes in. Busy is hands down the best service out there for international founders because they streamline the entire cross-border process. They handle your US LLC formation for just $0 plus state fees. You do not need a US visa. You do not need to set foot in the country. And you don't even need a social security number. They take care of your articles of organization, provide the US registered agent service you are legally required to have, and help you secure your EIN, which is the absolute golden ticket you need as a non-resident to open those payment gateways. They give you everything you need to establish that legal, professional US presence from thousands of miles away. This is non-negotiable if you want to build a truly global business and get paid in US dollars. I've put a special link in the description below. Use that link to get your US LLC set up through Busy today and unlock some exclusive perks and discounts. Get that handled first, and then let's start scaling.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with the big question, why even bother with a US company? Well, the simple answer is that we're talking about opportunity on a completely different level.
I mean, just look at these numbers. The scale difference is just incredible. We're talking about a consumer base that's 4 times the size of Germany's and a GDP that's over 6 times bigger. And that venture capital number? It's staggering. This isn't just about a slightly larger market. It's a whole different ecosystem for growing a business.
And your key to unlocking all of that is a US LLC. It's not just about market access. It makes getting paid through US systems like Stripe or PayPal so much easier. It protects your personal assets by keeping them separate from your business. It gives you a really credible professional American presence. And, as we're going to see in a bit, it comes with some amazing tax advantages. The best part of all, you can set this whole thing up without ever getting on a plane. All right, so that brings us to your very first and maybe most important decision. It's not if you should form an LLC, it's where. The state you pick has a huge impact on how much it costs, how much privacy you have, and how much paperwork you'll be dealing with every year. This chart really lays it all out. These 3 states are fantastic for non-residents, mainly because they don't have a state income tax, but they're each built for different things. Delaware is the classic choice for startups that want to raise money from venture capitalists. New Mexico, it's the absolute cheapest in the long run since it has 0 annual fees. But for most people, Wyoming is the sweet spot.
And that's really the main takeaway here. For most German entrepreneurs, whether you're in e-commerce, freelancing, or running a digital agency, Wyoming just offers the perfect blend. It's low cost, the compliance is super simple, and you get excellent privacy because your name isn't on any public record. It's just easy. All right, so you've picked Wyoming, or maybe one of the others. Now what? Let's walk through the actual administrative blueprint, the exact steps to get your LLC officially set up and ready to do business. This is basically your roadmap. You just follow these 6 steps in order, and you'll have a smooth, legally sound formation. It might look a little daunting, but honestly, there are great services that can handle almost all of this for you. Let's just zoom in on a couple of the most important pieces here.
Okay, you need to understand this part because it's non-negotiable. As a non-resident, a registered agent is not optional. It's a legal requirement. Think of them as your official physical presence in the US. They receive any official mail or legal notices, making sure you don't miss any critical deadlines and keeping your personal address off the public record. And you might be surprised by how fast this all happens. While things can vary, if you use a professional service, your LLC can be officially formed in just a day or 2.
And that really critical tax ID number, the EIN, you can have that in your hands in just a couple of weeks. Believe me, that's way faster than trying to deal with the IRS yourself from overseas. Okay, so your LLC is formed, you've got your EIN. Now for the fun part. It's time to connect your new company to the US financial system so you can actually get paid by your American clients.
This is probably the #1 question we get from international founders. For years, this was the biggest roadblock. But today, the answer is a very, very nice surprise.
That's right, no travel needed. The rise of modern fintech banks, the ones designed specifically for online businesses, has completely changed the game. The entire process is now 100% digital. Platforms like Mercury, Relay, and Wise Business are built for people just like you. They specialize in serving online and international entrepreneurs. So the application is super straightforward. Once you're approved, you get a real US bank account that connects perfectly with Stripe, Amazon, Shopify, you name it. It lets you receive, hold, and manage your money in US dollars. Easy as that. All right, let's talk about the fine print, the money. We need to break down the costs to actually set up and run this thing, and then we have to cover the absolutely critical rules around taxes and compliance that you have to follow to keep everything in good standing. So, your initial setup is just a single one-time cost. This fee pretty much gets everything done for you. It covers the state's filing fee, your first year of that required registered agent service, and the help you'll need getting your EIN, which, as a non-resident, is a bit trickier than it is for a US citizen. Then, after that first year, your ongoing costs are actually really manageable. For a Wyoming LLC, for example, you're looking at around $185 a year. That covers renewing your registered agent and paying the state's annual report fee. That's it. Okay, now for the part I'm sure you've been waiting for, the taxes. This is where it gets really interesting, because for many German entrepreneurs, it is totally possible to legally owe $0 in US income tax. Let me explain how that works. So here's the crucial point. From the US perspective, if you're the only owner, your LLC is what's called a disregarded entity. This means the company itself doesn't pay any US federal income tax. The profits simply pass through directly to you, the owner. And since you're a resident of Germany, you report that income and pay taxes on it in Germany. Now, the German tax office, the Finanzamt, will have its own rules for how to classify and tax that income, but the US side is often zero. But, and this is a huge but, just because you owe zero tax doesn't mean you can ignore the IRS. Absolutely not. You must file these two informational forms every single year. They're basically just telling the IRS about the transactions between you and your company. This is a non-negotiable compliance step. And I cannot stress this enough. If you fail to file these forms or you file them late, the minimum penalty is a painful $25,000. It is the one deadline you do not want to mess with. So please, make sure you either learn how to do it correctly or hire a professional to handle it for you. Look, having a US LLC is an incredibly powerful tool. It literally opens up the world's largest market, gives you access to a new financial system, and lends a whole new level of credibility to your brand. It gives you a real foothold in the global economy. So the question to leave you with isn't just about the LLC. It's about what you're going to build with it.